I really enjoyed building my outpost in Outpost Infinity Siege, so I can't wait for the highly anticipated sequel called XEN Weapon Platform Infinity Siege to drop next year. But jokes aside, building your weapon platform correctly is just as significant as making your outpost the best it can be. With over 120 mods to now choose from after the recent update, knowing what works and works well in your setup is crucial for pushing those higher difficulty extracts and even in the endless modes. In this video we'll discuss some of the best mods to exist for the platform, my current setup, and even provide some numbers to back it all up. So of course, if all that sounds good to you, stick around and let's get to it. But before we can go any further though, we do need to cover two very important messages, as the amazing people over at Lightning Games have given me a couple of keys to give out to some avid viewers. To be in with a chance of getting hold of one, make sure to listen out at the end of the video for how to take part, but a massive thank you to Lightning Games for the goodies to share out to all of you. Secondly, this video wouldn't be anywhere near as accurate if it wasn't for the dedicated work of a user going by the name of Valkyrian over on the Steam community and the official Discord. If you found any of this info helpful, make sure to head over there and thank them for it. Anyways, enough of that, so let's get to the juicy bits. Choosing which guns to work with can have a big impact on the XENs you rock and how effective they are, and while I would like to do a separate video talking about these in the future, there are a couple of things that we need to be aware of before we can go any further, most notably around barrels and the base platforms. Barrels wise, XENs can be affected by fire rate and projectiles, so in the case of the double tap and scatter barrels, 2 and 3 XENs can be fired at one time, but Lightning do have something in the code to reduce their effectiveness as they split, so they weren't outright broken from the gate. For example, the double tap barrel does offer a 20% damage boost if you land both of your shots, but each will only do 60% base damage once they land. Mixing this up with something like Splitter can be great for mass CC though, due to its auto tracking, but XENs like Inferno will be hampered by the built-in fire rate cap. Scatter barrels behave very similarly, but reducing damage to 40% per projectile, but still having that built-in 20% increase if all your shots are landed. Alternatively, the heavy barrel is great for increasing damage per shot, but does come with a hefty 50% increase to your XEN's cooldown on shot, making it very hard to use with faster firing mods. As for which is the best, this is mostly on a per use basis and will vary on the XEN that you intend to use, but it's worth noting the downsides they possess when taking your choice out. As for the base platform itself, some are definitely more standout than others, as some offer increases whereas others offer nothing worth talking about. Platforms like the Rapid are perfect for faster firing XENs that you intend to use, Support is perfect for faster cooldowns on your longer XENs that you take in, and Explosive is perfect for anything that you need larger radiuses, bigger area for your XENs. Once again, I'll look more in depth with these in a future video, but feel free to be able to take whatever you have the most slots in and highest rarity, and usually you'll be fine. Due to the type of firefights in this game and moments where you'll be without your outpost as you explore for the loot, you'll need a weapon that can handle anything that's thrown your way. Single target damage for stubborn foes, AoE or ad clearing methods, or maybe even thrown in a support mod or two for good measure to keep you in the action. It's with this in mind I'll be narrowing down the 120-ish mods in the game to around about 5 main choices and their respective morph mods. Now while most classes can get most use out of these XENs, Tiger Unit is the undeniable champ of it all due to their free fire ability being a perfect match for one of the mods on the list, and their cooldown ability being amazing at getting the rest back much faster for using again. So let's kick it off with a generic use XEN that's pretty much an all-good all-rounder, and this is going to be the Inferno Mod. This XEN mod turns you from a foot trooper into a Gatling gun on wheels, excelling with putting lead down range and dealing with threats fast. The first time you try out Inferno, you'll notice it's a fairly slow firing mode, and as default, just not an amazing way of being able to tackle foes. It could, but it could be better. The true beauty of this XEN though comes once you hold down that trigger and watch the blazing fire rate that it can achieve, which gets more daft as you mod into it. The way Inferno works in the code seems to suggest that its max fire rate is tied to its base fire rate, working off a percentage and benefiting massively as you decrease its cooldown, allowing it to ramp up to some crazy numbers and some hefty recoil. Combining this with the Tiger Unit's free fire ability, you can put down a lot of lead in a very short amount of time, perfect for targets with large profiles, especially for taking on bosses. With a low ammo cost as base and no damage fall off or bullet drop, the Inferno mode is a great base fire mode to be able to take into the game and will definitely help you in a plenty of situations, making it a great versatile mod for using indoors and endless alike. As for building this mod outright, you can go a couple different routes depending on what you aim to get from it. If pure max fire rate and single target DPS is your jam, cramming in as many damage rotors as possible increases your fire rate and your damage per shot by 10% each, giving a very tasty DPS boost. Of course, if you want to take full advantage of how light strikes work in this game and help with some CC while you blast away, then add in a couple of elemental entangles to the mix, allowing you to deal both light strike damage and elemental buildup as you strike with your electrode ammo, making electric chains proc more often and smacking enemies with a chunk of damage just for being stood next to their buddy. As you'll see some of these mods again very shortly, it's worth discussing as how light strikes work, and of course thanks again to Valkyrian for putting in the legwork. Light strike damage seems to increase the more strikes that you have added in, ranging from 21% damage at 1 strike to roughly an extra 90% damage at 7 total strikes. These become more deadly when you put on a faster firing XEN, allowing those strikes to go all over the place, but if you're looking for a great way of being able to take down Kronos on the Snow Extract, slap on some light strikes and then XEN to be able to hit those weak points and watch them crumble before you. If you want to look more into the numbers for light strikes and combinations, I'd highly recommend looking at the Steam guide that Valkyrian has made, as it goes into depth for each combo, so I'll make sure to leave that link below. As for Elemental Entangle, I couldn't find any specific numbers on what this offers, but it will become abundantly clear just how useful this is in our next XEN, taking a pacifist type mod and turning it into a devastating mob clearer. This is Gravity. If you haven't seen this mod before, you might be confused how a mod designed into pulling enemies together is going to be an amazing mob clearer, and as standard, you'd be right, it's not very good. The real shine comes out when we mod this up with some similar combos that we've just mentioned. How Gravity works is that you'll hit a location that you fire with no bullet drop and no travel time, making it especially easy for hitting where you need this too. Firing at a group of enemies will pull them into the center for 6 seconds and once every half second, followed by an explosion at the center once the XEN wears off. Now while this is good for keeping a bunch of enemies away from your base or maybe even collecting items within a radius and saving you searching around for them, things start getting a little crazy once we mix in some light strikes and some elemental buildups. Combined with electro ammo for those chains and to abuse the damage buildup that it increases, enemies will start to take light strikes for being near their friendlies, but also right next to each other for the electro chains to do some damage, which in turn fires it right back and keeps going back and forth until the ability ends, or only one enemy still remains in the center. The chains can get so crazy with enough enemies that you will start to drop frames and performance at times, as your PC will struggle to keep up with what madness is happening all at once. To maximise this XEN out though, we'll want to drop in some elemental entangles for the damage goodness, with the more being the better. We'll also want to drop in some radius increases to really grab their attention, allowing you to affect as many of the robots at once. I've currently mixed in a light strike to the original target so that we have some damage thrown around as much as possible, but adding in a pull to make sure enemies can't escape, or more elemental entangles, or even just additional radius is never a bad thing. Either way, fire this out and watch the field just get wiped, almost like they were caught in a black hole. But maybe you just haven't reached far enough into the game to see a Gravity mod just yet. Well, not to fret my dear viewer, we have another amazing early game solution in the form of Splitter, acting as a great damage dealer with homing properties, so you can fire and forget while it does all the work for you. As standard, the Splitter XEN fires a floating orb that travels around about 5 meters before bursting into a fan of 5 explosives that then seek out and track enemies to be able to explode. According to Valkyrian, each explosive deals around about between 35 to 45% of your damage with no fall off, a little bit randomly, so with 5 of them it's dealing anywhere between 175% to 225% damage per cast. Of course, this expands further with barrel choices, as double taps fire off 2 projectiles for homing in on enemies, or scatter barrels offering 3. Adding in the ability to have a chain morph doubles this even further, so 2 as standard, 4 with double tap barrels, or even 6 with scatter barrels, making a grand total of up to 30 homing projectiles per cast. Using this XEN with Tiger units allows you to pop off several casts of this within short succession of each other due to the cooldown ability and the Splitter having a lower cooldown as standard. Once again, this ability can be made up a couple different ways depending on the damage that you intend to get out of this, as woodland or even snow maps don't require that much damage to get the kill on mobs like enemies, with city missions requiring a little bit more investment to reliably take down the more stubborn enemies found inside that difficulty. For maxing out on damage and projectiles, you'll want to use mods like Condense to increase the damage far more than the strong mods could ever offer, with Condense 2 even offering a 50% increase per mod on the ability. It's always worth throwing in a Mighty mod for that first hit interaction and granting a free crit on each projectile, elevating it from just a mob clearer to an ability that can help out with tanks and apostles to some extent. If you can grab a chain morph to add in here as well, then you'll be laughing with all the damage that's getting thrown around. But now it's time for the big boy damage dealer, the Apostle Killer, the Tank Destroyer, the main go-to way of destroying endless beacons. Welcome in the Chain XEN, and no, we aren't talking about that chain morph that we've just talked about. Yeah, why are they named the same? Bit strange. This ability is going to chew through your ammo like nobody's business, but the damage it will be dealing is going to be well worth the trade. How this Zen works is that it will place down a mini Tesla coil where it lands, and it will check for enemies inside of its range, then randomly choose one to hit with an electro strike, dealing high damage, which of course we can amplify further by modifying this ability. This ability is already a strong single target damage Zen, and it is 100% the way to go with this rather than trying to make it more general and offer some CC, especially as we can have another slot in the gun just pretty much take that role for us. With this in mind, we'll want to increase the damage as much as possible, so things like Condense 2 and the Chain Morph are instant locks, granting additional hits and a massive increase in damage per condense that's added in. Chucking in a Mighty Swing means that we'll see a crit land every single time that this Zen lands, doing devastating damage bumped up with the gear that we have equipped. But one of the better mods to add into this setup is Multiplier 2 according to Valkyrian, as not only does the damage increase for sniping this into firefights, but it also increases the efficiency of the skill, increasing its duration, so in turn increasing the amount of hits that it will do on its deployment. Due to the testing, having 3 mods in, it seems to increase the skill from a base 18 hits all the way up to 41, being around about a 227% increase in damage over its full duration per cast. With all this in mind, the best setup for maximizing your damage seems to be Mighty Swing 2, combined with 2 Multiplier 2s, 1 Chain to double the ability, and then 2 Condensed 2s if you have full space on heroic gear. Doing this seems to be one of the strongest setups in the entire game right now, so if you see this mod drop, best get it right in your gear. And lastly, I wanted to discuss a support option, and also one of the newer mods to bless the game, offering some nice damage output for yourself or teammates caught inside, boosting all of the above and anything else that you may wish to use. This pick is a little niche though, as it's worth mentioning it isn't a great combination with the Breakthrough Helmet that offers nice DPS increases the faster you move. Super Gravity is one of the Zen types that requires the player to hit a floor or surface to activate, and while it doesn't do any damage alone, it will offer players boosts for just being inside of it. In this case, Super Gravity increases the player's attack at the cost of reducing your speed inside, making you an easier target to hit, but makes it much easier to be able to take down those targets. So taking this into the shooting range, I was able to test this out with some of the Zens that we've mentioned previously in this list, and it really seems to reward the higher damaging abilities more than the ad clearers. Starting with Gravity, our designated mop clear, damage stats seem to suggest only a measly 7% increase in total damage, meaning light strikes just don't really benefit much from this, and neither do the electro chains when reaching full status, so don't expect double Gravity as it's not really worth the ammo or the hassle. Inferno though did get a tasty increase, jumping up by roughly 20 to 22% per shot, offering a much faster boss kill if you intend to shoot the floor before starting your free fire skill. Of course, increasing efficiency will be worth it for Super Gravity to take full advantage of this, as there's going to be a little bit of downtime between the swapping of your mods and the activation of that skill. But the real winner here is going to be Chain, doing a massive 63% increase of damage, more than it would have been in a like-for-like build. Now, while Chain is already a huge damage dealer in its own right and might not need this extra, it is something to be aware of, and should we get things at the right difficulty level to deserve this increase. And yes, I did test out trying Chain in the mod slot for this ability, seeing if it would double this even further, but unfortunately it only seemed to work out to around about a 20% increase with the Chain skill, and not the 60% that we've just seen and to be expected. Now personally, I feel the increase in efficiency is the way to go for this skill, and not to double up on Super Gravity, as the 20% boost just on that one ability, which is already ridiculously strong, is just not really worth the massive reduction in speed. So currently I'm running this with 4 advanced mods to increase its duration, and then I've thrown in a Detonate 2 for a larger radius for either co-op play, or just to allow me some form of movement inside of its range. As for how I run my weapons, personally I like to have my setup as Inferno, Chain, Gravity and Super Gravity, and this is my favourite to go, and also allows me to be able to tackle any and all threats that just come my way. Inferno is for my general running around and free fire use, Chain is for taking on bigger threats, Gravity is for crowd control, and lastly Super Gravity is there ready for me in case I need that bigger damage boost. And with that, it pretty much wraps it up on the main meta Zens that you should be using and abusing in the game currently. I may take another look down the line at some of the utility-based Zens to see what they are worth taking out every now and then, see what kind of uses we should be starting to see them in, but these are pretty much the best in slots to use and pretty much you'd always go for. Of course, this is the part of the video where I want to hear from you down in the comments. Do you think I missed out some Zens that are worth mentioning? How do you rock your current Zen setups? And lastly, what do you want to see from being added into the Zen pool in the future? Let me know all that and more down below. Thank you for making your way to the end of the video. Now, I did mention at the start about ways to grab yourself a free key for this game, and I'll be looking to run for one key in the comment section of this video and one over on my Discord, which you can find the link in the video description. For this video though, to be in with a chance of winning, leave a comment with what you'd like to call your perfect outpost to tackle the AI threat. The best answer I will be picking and will win a key, or of course if there's several that I just can't choose between, then I'll be doing a draw and pull out a winner that way. Of course, you can double your chances by entering both here as well as on the Discord, so hope to see you over there. With that all being done, as I always say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on our next video.